What's the good word, Josh? Your boy DKB here. I'm so hyped up. Jets football is finally back. We wrapped up our first preseason game against the Commanders, coming off a dominant joint practice against them. And it wasn't a dominant win, but it was a win nonetheless. And there was plenty of things to speak about looking at this game. And this is just that first look, right? I have my all 22 stuff back this year, so I'm super excited to be able to dive into all of that. But one of the things that stood out to me is the fact that this looks like a much better coached team, right? The quality of the plays that we have going out there definitely showed on the field, considering when you take a look at things, we had about 13 or 14 starters on the offensive side of the ball and the defensive side of the ball. So if you're counting somewhere between 26 and 28 players overall, starters or significant role/depth players for us, right? And so you take a look at short series from Tyrod Taylor, mostly the ground game to speak about, right? Braylon Allen. I'm not going to say I'm eating crow here, right? Isaiah Davis is the guy I chose to ride with at the beginning of the offseason, but Braylon Allen really impressed me this game because not only does he look fleet-footed, right? This is a guy that has some hidden turbochargers in his feet. He's able to make certain like angular movements and still show that power that first contact, Robert Saleh kind of touched on this, is going to be rough for anybody in that second or third line of defense that's looking to come and get him. So I'm very impressed by his performance. And then you take a look at what our quarterbacks were able to do. Andrew Peasley looked very comfortable, right? I talked about it in our breakdown. If he's to find a role on his offense, it's going to be as a guy that could be a game manager. And that's definitely what he showed, right? I think he went about 8 of 11, 87-ish yards, something like that. He had his touchdown to Jason Brownlee, who's continuing his ascension, his push to try to make sure he can find a way to stick on this roster. But game manager, he did what he needed to do. He made the plays that were there. I will say it looked to me like the pocket was collapsing a lot quicker, more often than you would have wanted to see with him at the helm. And he managed that pressure very, very well, being able to dump things off to Isaiah Davis, being able to find some of his outlets when he had the chance to take and drop that dime to Jason Brownlee. He threw the perfect ball to where only Jason Brownlee could really make the play on it. So very impressive by him. And then maybe to follow that up in even more impressive performance, Adrian Martinez, a guy that's only been here a couple of weeks. Again, scouting report showed that this is a guy that loved to make plays with his legs. He's developed his arm talent a lot more effectively, and he would have had an even bigger performance. Keep in mind, there was 2 big plays that Lance McCutcheon couldn't make, and I think each of those would have went for about 30 to 40 yards a pop or so. Could have kept some promising drives going that maybe would have resulted in touchdowns. Nonetheless, Adrian Martinez, strong arm. You'd love to see that he was a little bit more aggressive than what we were able to see out of Andrew Peasley. Made a lot of things happen via extending plays, and it wasn't just him looking to take off and run, right? He only ran twice. Both of those times came in critical third down situations for us. Isaiah Davis showed his passing ability, right? Being able to catch things out of the backfield. I think on his 20-something yard catch, he was split out wide. I'd have to go back and check, but nonetheless, that backfield in and of itself, it's going to be glorious this season, right? You have Brees, and the expectations speak for itself. Seeing Braylon Allen and what he did, and then Isaiah Davis also being able to contribute, there's going to be a lot. Plus, him getting thrown into the return mix, probably not a role I necessarily want to see him in, but I can see the benefits of having his physicality back there when you take a look at what Malachi Corley was able to try to pull off, doing the same thing. But otherwise, defensively, I think that's where a lot of the excitement definitely still lies, right? You had Leonard Taylor, who was popping off the entire game. You had Eric Watts, who showed his ability to still be able to go out there and impact things in the pass game. Got himself an impressive tackle for loss. A lot of pressures out there. Braden McGregor continuing to show his burst off the line of scrimmage. And so it really just gives this semblance that again, this reinforcement, I should say, that the Jets know what they're looking for on the defensive side of the ball. It doesn't always have to be from a guy that has a NFL skill ready talent. If you have some of the traits and maybe a certain element of your game that can fit in from day one, or that they can get ready by the start of the season, you're good to go. That's ultimately what it is, right? You take a look at the fact that, again, most of our starters, a lot of our role guys, not on that side of the ball. Brandon Condrington was able to step up. You've seen big plays out of Jalen Key. Jarek Bernard-Converse he reminds me a ton, I think I mentioned this before, of Bryce Hall, with just his ability to overcome maybe some mishaps that occur, right? Touchdown allowed, comes back, stops a touchdown from occurring. And I did see an impressive interview from him where he just talked about this is JBC is a smart guy, right? I think he does veterinarian medicine, so pets. And he's a guy that is really by the book when it comes to the X's and O's, when it comes to the techniques, the fundamentals. He just hasn't really been able to have a steady home in terms of only focusing on safety, only focusing on cornerback. Now he's able to do that, and you're seeing him reap the rewards, right? Impressive plays, not just in this game, but even during practices, breaking up balls away from Garrett Wilson, being able to take on the likes of Alan Lazard, a lot of different body types that he's going up against. So really hyped for what he can be in terms of maybe I made this point before. Maybe Brandon Echols, with his legal trouble and stuff, isn't as much of a lock for the roster as we think. But overall, game one, I give a lot of kudos to this coaching staff. Defensively, we know we were going to bring the juice. We were going to try to dictate the game, do what we needed to do, and I think we achieved that in all facets. But offensively, looking at the way the quarterbacks were able to execute, the run game behind Izzy and Valladay wasn't as effective, but then you started having guys like Willie Tyler out there at bookend. I'm forgetting the other name that was on the right side, but nonetheless, offensive line play, we know, is something that we're going to have to continue to work through, which, by the way, Joe Tippmann, no snap issues this game. I respect the decision to have him in there. Give him as much time, right, to go out there and be able to work those things through. You like to see it with Rodgers, but nonetheless, the more practice, the better. But overall, kudos to the coaching staff. Specifically, I'd have to call out Todd Downing, right, with him being the new QB coach. To have a guy like Adrian Martinez has only been around you for so long, able to go out there and execute a game plan with guys that he hasn't practiced with a ton of time either, right? There's nobody you look at and say clearly he has chemistry with such and such. And I look at Brandon Smith as an example of that, right? The guy that was on the receiving end of two of his biggest plays. I didn't even remember us bringing in Brandon Smith. I think he came in within the last 2 weeks as well as part of all the tryouts that we were doing. But Peasley, Adrian Martinez, well done. Ground game looks as effective as we would expect it to be. The offensive line, they're still going to need to gel and get some things together. But overall, it just looks like the needle is moving up on a lot of these guys. And that's the best that you can really ask for. So let me know what you guys thought ultimately of the game. And I'm looking forward to so much more this offseason. I'll catch you guys again, though. Peace.